how to deal with the fear of death. Right now, your whole experience of life is limited to this body. No matter what kind of teachings other people give you, it does not matter. Someone may tell you that you are not the body, or that you are the Atma, soul, or the Paramatma, super soul, or whatever. But in your experience, this body is you. Whatever Gitas they may read to you, whatever Upanishads they may read to you, your experience is still limited to the physical body. So you fear losing it. But if you explore and establish yourself in other dimensions of experience, the body will become an easy thing to handle. Life or death will not make such a big difference. Fundamentally, death means you are shedding what you have gathered in this life in terms of physical content and psychological content. You may think many things about yourself as a person, but as far as the planet is concerned, it is just recycling itself. It pops you up and pulls you back. In that pop up, you have an opportunity to transcend this whole cycle. But whether you transcend or not is entirely up to you. Moreover, when your experience of life is limited to the physical body, then you not only fear death but also fear life and seek security. And this fear of life in turn makes you court death, because seeking security is courting death. Have you noticed, if people feel insecure, they will just curl up and sleep. They just go back into that fetal position. The need is to go back into the womb. The womb is not really in the mother, the womb is really in death. The physical mother is just a small manifestation of that, but the real womb is in death. When people feel insecure, they want to drink and sleep, because sleep is just a small manifestation of death. People want to sleep absolutely like a dog because it gives freedom from life. This whole courting death thing has come because of the need for security. From where did the insecurity spring? First of all, insecurity comes to you because of limited identification. You identify yourself as a body, and only because of that there is all this insecurity. Your body is fragile bubble that you have blown. The fear of death is simply because you are existing here in this vast existence as a tiny person. If you have tasted the unboundedness in you, if you truly experienced yourself beyond the limitations of physical and the mental, there would be no fear. This is why there is so much emphasis on using your time and life to know what is beyond the physical. That is why you must do sadhana. But a lot of people who have a fear of death try to become immortal. They try to beat it. This is a wrong approach. If you fear death, now you must see what the basis of this is. Instead of seeing how to transcend your limited identification, if you try to become immortal, it is just distraction. It will not get you anywhere. If your experience of life is established beyond the physical body, shedding it is a very simple affair. When you want to change your clothes, you just change them, isn't it? If you don't like it, you are through with it and you walk naked. It is up to you. You need to understand, once this body has run its course, it will go anyway, whether you like it or not, whether you approve of it or not. As long as it exists, taking good care of it is definitely our business. But if you are paranoid about ill health or death, you will not take good care of it. In your anxiety, you will destroy the body. The very anxiety of what may happen to this body will destroy the body. Confronting your fear of death can bring tremendous clarity and transformation in one's life. This happened some decades ago. Once I was in a Bangalore city and I went to the vegetable market. I was not there to buy anything. I just like to walk through the vegetable markets. So I was walking and suddenly I saw this vegetable vendor who was all bright and lit up. I could not believe that a man like this was selling vegetables. I looked at him and instantly our eyes locked and I laughed. He also started laughing. Then I went to him and we started talking about things in general. Then I asked him, "How come a man like you is selling vegetables here?" He was evasive. He said, "I'm just doing my work here." We bantered a little more and I finally found out what had happened. It seems he was an ordinary vegetable seller. One day he became ill, so ill that he thought he was going to die. But each day it got postponed by one more day and one more day. For 4 months this went on. Every day he would think this is it, but at the end of the day he would still be alive. In these 4 months, because of constantly being with the death, something tremendous happened within him. His energies exploded into a different state altogether. He became so blissful, he cared not a hoot about whether he retained the body or not. Once he did not care, his body recovered completely. Mortality is freedom from the mortal coil. The foundation of ignorance is mistaking the accumulated body to be oneself. Breaking that is enlightenment. Now he came back to his vegetable shop and began selling vegetables. He saw that his ill health brought such a miracle into his life. So anyone who comes to buy vegetables from him, he blesses them. May you also become ill like me. When he says ill, he is not wishing you ill. He is wishing that somehow, if through health it has not happened to you, at least through ill health, may you wake up, because that is what happened to him. So whatever it is, illness, death, or any calamity that happens around, you can either use it to liberate yourself or you can use it to entangle yourself. Calamities, especially like death and illness, are a tremendous opportunity to look beyond the limitations of what you normally understand as life. It need not happen to you if you are intelligent. You can learn from other people's experience. You have heard of Gautama. He saw just one sick man, one old man, and one dead body, and he realized, any day this can happen to me. So there is no point in running away from it. If someone is ill or someone is dying, I want you to sit with them and see that this could have been you, that this could be you any day. The most horrible illness that someone has got, we don't want it. We are not wishing for it. But you should know, any day it could be you. It does not matter whether you are 18 or 80. It could be you today or tomorrow. Now, if you are already in fear and at the end of your life, what to do? Fundamentally, the problem is that we think there is a solution for anger. There is another solution for fear. There is another solution for depression. No, there is no treatment as such for these things. This may look simplistic, but the fundamental reality is that your mind is not taking instructions from you. There are two significant faculties that human beings have: a vivid sense of memory and a vivid sense of imagination. Fear means your imagination is out of control. So it is a question of taking your faculties into your control rather than fighting fear. In reality, there is no such thing as fear. Actually, you are making it up. Generally, people think that if the process of survival gets better, if food and shelter are taken care of, the fear will go away. But affluent societies are clearly proving that it is not the case. They are making a big statement: give us as much food as you want, as much shelter as you want. It does not matter. We will experience fear for something else. The terror that someone goes through among the civilian population in a war torn country is much more acute. But you will see, when they get a break from the bombing, they will all play, sing, dance, and be happy because suddenly they realize the value of life. But the fear that affluent societies suffer is endemic. It is simply on, day in and day out. Fear is not because of a situation, it is simply because your own psychological system is not in your hands. It is essentially the nature of how you keep your mind. Unfortunately, people try to handle a consequence without understanding the cause. Fear is a consequence of certain situation within you. When you try to handle fear, you are trying to handle the consequence. What is needed is taking charge of your physiological and psychological process, paying attention to the process of how we generate thoughts, how we generate emotions, how we conduct our body, and how we manage our chemistry. People think talking about death more openly, gaining more exposure to death, will help them overcome the fear of death. It is only partially true, but it is in the way you do it. It need not work for everyone. Someone may watch people dying and get terrified, or someone else may watch a lot of people die and become callous. They just don't care. There are a whole lot of people like that. If you go to burial or cremation grounds or even the morgues in most places, the person just does not care. He thinks he is immortal. It is all a question of your awareness and how you look at it. If you are ready for it in some way, you are sensitive to it, then it could do something for you. But many people may become completely insensitive. It is always dependent on the individual person. So, are there certain practices that you can still do, certain kind of ambiences that you can create around you so that you can gradually take control of your faculties even at the moment of death? One thing you can do is remind yourself about death, your death. Every day, just spend 5 minutes reminding yourself that you are mortal and today you may die. Just remind yourself this much and wonderful things will happen to you. Gurdjieff was a 19th century mystic and spiritual teacher who lived in Europe. During his time, he was called a rascal saint, a rascal, because his methods were so drastic. He did crazy things with people. He gave solutions to the world. He said, if you want to have the world enlightened, we must plant a new organ in everyone's body. The purpose of this organ would be that several times every day this organ should remind you that you will also die. Just reminding yourself constantly that you are mortal and you may die today will take away your fear of death. The Shunya meditation that we initiate people into is not an implant, but it also reminds you of death. Every day when you sit down for Shunya meditation, you see your personality has dissolved and there is just a certain presence. During the meditation, everything that you consider as myself will become nothing. It is as if you die. When you open your eyes, it is all there again. So twice a day, every day, you consciously die. If you just as much as practice this consciously, when the time to actually die comes, it will no more be a big issue. This will release you from the fear of death. There are other practices and processes that can distinctly establish the two dimensions of energy, Ida and Pingala. Once these dualities are distinct in your experience, the flame of Sushumna that energy that is beyond dualities is experienced. In experiencing the non dual, the duality of life and death will become one. It is the illusion of duality and the attachment to one of them that makes death a fearful expectation of being wrenched away from that which you know. Gaining mastery over the Panchapranas, the five manifestations of life energy, or gaining mastery over the five elements, also takes away the distinction between life and death. Once the borders of life and death, the two dimensions of same, are breached, and you can consciously transact with both, there will be no room for fear. So do people who fear death always die a terrible death. It could work out both ways actually. Some people who are always afraid of death may just go through it just like that, without any issue, when the actual moment comes. On the other hand, people who think they are very brave may not know how to deal with it at that time. There are many factors to it. The karmic content of one's life always plays a big role, and what kind of life you have led until then definitely factors in. But it is also about what form the death came to you in, what kind of context. In certain types of context, they may be terrorized even if they are otherwise not disposed towards it. In certain types of context, they may come to terms with death just because the context was such. This is why in the Indian culture they always say that a dying person must be treated with the utmost care and respect, and there has been a great amount of emphasis about setting the right context. We will be looking at this later in this book.